Thank you for joining me for another quick hits conversation. Today, I would like to talk about, is it possible to be both proud and humble at the same time? Karina, kick us off.
Okay, well, my immediate thoughts are, so pride, obviously anything to excess is bad. And so pride to excess, no, you couldn't be humble and excessively proud. But I do believe that being proud of yourself in some, for certain actions and behaviors is a fundamental part of building your own self-esteem and sense of self-worth. So I think the answer has to be yes for me, because being humble is good, because a certain amount of modesty and not bragging and all that kind of stuff is good, but you do also need a certain amount of pride, otherwise you just wouldn't think well enough of yourself.
Why is being humble good? Why do we think that?
Good question. As soon as Karina said that, I thought, is that a racial thing? Is that a British thing? Are we particularly good at being faux humble? Oh, I could never do that. I'm just no good at that. Oh, that's shocking. And I wondered if it is a particularly British thing, because there are people I work with, both colleagues and clients, who are not overly proud, but equally they're not faux humble. They'll just say, yeah, that's something I'm very good at. You won't find anyone better at doing this than me.
What is it? How do you be proud without it coming across as arrogant? Is that part of it?
I think.
Go on, Marie.
I think it's all, like Karina alluded to, it's all about balance, isn't it? It's finding that balance, not being extreme. And like Steve said as well, there's values here and culture. There's lots that come into it. So when I was thinking about this question, where I went was, for me, I see pride as a feeling and humility as a value or behavior. So you can feel pride, but you can value and behave humbly. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. That's kind of where my mind went with that. Just like you can feel scared, but you can be courageous, which the courage is a value and a behavior. And I'm sure that we can think of other similarities, but that's kind of where I went.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Yeah. I think, it's being humble is, I agree 100%. What she said. Yeah.
What's funny? On my screen, you pointed the wrong way.
I think both of those things can be considered values. Humility and pride can both be perceived as values. I think being unjustifiably proud is an error of judgment in yourself or in your communication, and equally an error of over humility.
So is it possible to be proud without thinking of yourself as being better than? Is the problem with pride and arrogance is that you then put the assessment of, well, that makes me better than you, and then that's where the problem lies. But you can be proud of yourself for accomplishing something that has nothing to do with other people.
There's something. Oh, go on.
Go on, Marie. Go on.
I was just going to say, there's something in this around it's some internal and external, isn't it? So that internal feeling of pride, you're not shouting it from the rooftops. It's just a feeling. It's not being better than or being arrogant, or it's just a feeling inside that no one needs to even know about. So
It also depends on whether it's a sort of an all-encompassing, I've performed exceptionally well in this area today, does not equate to I am better than you overall, I'm just a better person. It doesn't, so it's keeping it within its context and within its box, if you see what I mean. So it might be that, because you might feel proud because you've outperformed yourself in any given moment.
Oh, PRs are the best.
Yes, exactly. So but on the flip side, there are occasions when you can conduct yourself better than the other person in the room, and you might feel a sense of sort of momentary superiority because you think, well, actually, I feel I have the moral high ground here. I feel like they've done something bad, I didn't. It's that sort of Schadenfreude kind of thing, where you kind of get that sense of, oh, that's terrible, I didn't do that. You know, so I think, you know, an element of that is human, but I think it's again, it's not, never to excess, and don't let it exceed its bounds, if you see what I mean.
I think you have to be a little careful, because there's a limitation in language. You know, you can be proud of yourself, you can be proud of your family, you can be proud of all your achievements, or a specific achievement, as you've said, Karina, you know, some one thing that you have, or, you know, a PV, a personal record, anything like that, in sport or whatever. But it's very hard to, for me anyway, to distinguish, to say, I'm proud because I did this, but I'm humble because I did that, or I didn't do this. You know, I'm proud because I beat my personal best. I'm humble because I'm still X number of points behind my nearest rival. So yeah, there's a limitation in language. So the feeling of pride and humility can run side by side. Being able to express that to other people, I think, is a challenge.
Is there a gender gap in being allowed to be proud, or being expected to be humble?
As an outlier in this trio, this quartet, I have to say, I'm not going to say a thing about that. I don't know.
I wonder, that's a really good question, Robyn. I love that question. I wonder if it's more around the personality type. You know, there's different personalities. We all know there's different personality types, and there's certain personality types to lend themselves to maybe being perceived as being arrogant. You know, if you take the DISC personality types, the DISC, you know, your dominant D red person can have a tendency or be perceived to being more arrogant than the other personality types. So whether there's more male or female red types than you know, more male than female, or vice versa, I don't know, but I think it's more of a personality thing. But if I'm really honest in answering that question, which I feel slightly nervous saying, if I look across the people I know, I would say more of the male species would have that tendency than female, but I don't know. That's just my experience. But
well, and I feel like men are more allowed to be in, they're allowed to push that arrogance much farther without being called out than a woman is. And I say that as someone who's been called out many times in her life, and as she has gotten older, has had to learn to temper her pride in herself and her exuberance about, you know, things that she succeeded at. You know, now I'm like, oh yes, I've done a TEDx talk.
It's about how you do it, isn't it? It's the if on the one hand, because I'm trying to think of it, you know, any people that can be cocksure of themselves and they do sort of err on the side of cocky that I know, what makes them endearing and still likable is that the next day they could also be quite self-deprecating. You know, they're not afraid to kind of concede that there are areas they're weak in, and that there are things that they're not good at, or, you know, and that kind of thing. Whereas I think if it's an all-encompassing, you know, I'm brilliant, and then when someone goes, oh, you dropped the ball there, and they go, oh no, I didn't, I just were, and they can't handle it, then you kind of go, oh, that's doesn't sit so well, you know.
Yeah. Do you think women are on the side of being too humble more than men?
I think for me, the clients that I've worked with, it's more typical of the female clients to struggle to put themselves forward for something that is perhaps a little just about beyond their reach. Whereas for men, they're more inclined to just, well, I'll figure it out when I get there. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Whereas women have a tendency to wait until, no, I've done it, I've practiced, and I'm ready. Let's go. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
There's a cultural expectation. There's a cultural expectation that guys can big themselves up and women shouldn't. But that's a cultural expectation which is so outmoded, so out of date, and so against everything that I believe in respect of equality, that I'm loath to put it forward. However, it still exists.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like what we're saying is you can be proud of yourself, you can put that forward, and you can still be humble. And it's about twofold: how you put it forward, how you bring it, but also how people perceive you. And how people perceive you may not be as much your problem as you think it is. So I'm going to cut us off there because that's our 10 minutes. So thank you so much for having this conversation about pride and humility. I really appreciate it. So have a great rest of your day.
You too.
See you guys.
I